Hello, welcome. My name is Theodore, and you want to write and code with Theo. Do you really want to sharpen your technical writing skills? Well, I guess your answer is yes. But do you know there are rules to technical writing? It's not actually a walk in the park. Today, we'll learn 12 rules of technical writing. You will learn how to write clear, concise, and effective content. What are you waiting for? Let's jump right in. I remember when I first started writing, I didn't know the rules. I didn't care about the rules. I just wrote, okay? But along the line, I noticed some standards or rules that are being homogeneous, coherent, and specific to contents I see. I mean, good content. Like they have this particular pattern they follow. What happened? I realized what I wrote in the past were not really up to standard. Yeah, I was excited to write, I was happy to write, but I didn't follow the rules. It was more like a moth to the flame. These rules, they guide me even up to now because whichever company or whichever agency or whatever person you want to write for, they definitely will have a guideline that you must follow. That is just a little part of my own story. I don't want you to make that kind of mistake. I don't want you to repeat what I've repeated. I don't want you to reinvent the wheel. So let's jump right into the 12 rules of technical writing. Rule number 1, remember your audience, but don't assume anything. When you write, keep in mind that you have an audience and don't assume they know what you know. In other words, when you write, make sure that some technical terms are clarified. In fact, try and explain the basics if necessary. Document the obvious. This is so that everyone can follow along. Nobody will be lost. For example, say you want to write, click the button to proceed. I mean, which button? Your audience probably doesn't know what button you are referring to. But it would have been better if you wrote it this way. In the dashboard, click the submit button located at the bottom right corner to proceed. This way, your audience now understand what you mean and they can then follow along without getting stuck. In summary, make sure you define technical terms as possible and provide context as well so that your readers will be able to follow along. Rule number 2, adopt a direct and neutral tone. Don't be overly casual. Don't make jokes. In fact, don't even use slangs. Try and make sure you are clear, professional, and to the point. This is because you're not writing a novel. This is something technical, okay? Your audience, they are there for other things important. It could be something informational, it could be something transactional, it should be something commercial. Like I mentioned in the previous video where we talked about the 5 common SEO mistakes beginner technical writers make. So make sure whatever you're writing is clear to the point and professional. You don't need to, make it look like a novel or a newspaper, but don't tell anybody. For example, let's say you wrote something like, this awesome feature will blow your mind. Come on. You want to blow the mind of your audience? That is not really professional. You could say something like, this feature allows users to streamline data processing efficiently. This way, you make it clear, professional, and to the point. Rule number 3, don't reinvent the wheel. Most of these entities you want to write for, the first thing you want to do is to find out what writing style they use or the guideline for their writing. This is so that you've helped them with a coherent article that is homogeneous with other contents they've done or written in the past and the future. So you don't need to start bringing a particular style because companies like Google, like Strapi, Microsoft, they all have their own writing style. So first and foremost, get to know the writing style an entity is using for their writing and use it. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Rule number 4, stick to simple English. You don't need to impress anybody by high-sounding vocabularies, okay? Remember, you are here to make things clear, understandable, and straight to the point. You don't need to start using jargons of maybe your technical background. No, that is wrong. Your audience, they want to follow along. They want to make sure you help them with whatever must have led them to your content. You don't need to confuse them with vocabularies or big English. For example, instead of saying, utilize the application to accomplish your objectives expeditiously, that is too much. I probably can't pronounce everything. It's too complex. But look at this, which is a simplified version. It says, use the app to achieve your goals quickly. This is straight to the point, and it doesn't need dictionary. You don't need dictionary to understand this. Rule number 5, write clear and straight to the point content. Avoid having a long paragraph. If you can, divide this paragraph into short and concise sentences so that they can easily be understood. So remove any redundant phrases, unnecessary words, and make sure it is just straight to the point. Every word, every sentence should count. To break it further, avoid transitional words like furthermore, moreover, and if you can, avoid using parentheses because you're making it longer and it loses the value. For numbers, like when you're writing something like step 1, make sure they are numerals. So you don't need to write the full words. Let's take a look at an example. Now, imagine you write something like this. In order to start the process, it is necessary to first ensure that all prerequisites have been completed in their entirety. This is too long. It is not clear. In fact, it is confusing and not really straight to the point. Now, imagine you write it this way, a better way. Ensure all prerequisites are complete before starting the process. Now, it is concise and straight to the point. No confusion. Rule number 6, never say something is difficult or simple. For the fact that it is simple to you does not mean it is simple to your audience. Your audience might be sweating, crying, and in your mind, you think you are doing him or her a favor. And remember the first rule, keep your audience in mind. So when you see something that is simple to you, please avoid using simple or difficult. Okay? Here is an example. Imagine telling your audience, this step is easy and should only take a few seconds. I mean, your audience might be somewhere struggling, crying, sobbing, and you are here telling them this step is easy and should only take a few seconds. But you could have made it better by saying, to complete this step, follow these instructions carefully. This way, you keep them in mind. You also show them the way to achieve the solution. Rule number 7, make sure your directions are displayed in number list. Imagine you want to implement a feature that would require you go to the backend, configure your controller, create a route, create a service, or perhaps a utility function, and then onto the front end, we do this, do that. I mean, all these are steps from one point to another. So when you have something like that, try as much as possible to give them numbers. You could say step 1, step 2, step 3. And remember, these numbers should be numerals, not just words. Let's take a look at that example. Let's say you have a content, you want to show a direction, and you say first, log in, then click settings and adjust preference. After that, save your changes. All this would have been made easier if you tell the audience to do this as numbers, like steps. For instance, 1, log into your account. 2, you could say, click the settings button or click settings and adjust your preferences, save your changes. And that is it. That way it's much better and straight to the point. Rule number 8, replace enumeration with numbered lists. And when you have complex lists, please replace with a table. The best way to do this is to provide a list, bulleted list. And when the list is too much, perhaps, let's say more than 10, when the list is too much, use a table. Here is an example. For example, instead of saying the system supports features like user management, role assignment, data encryption, and real-time analytics, you could say the system supports the following features: user management, role assignment, data encryption, real-time analytics. This improves the readability of your content and will help readers process information quickly. Rule number 9, keep away from ambiguity and unclarity. For example, stop using words like it, they. They are pronouns. It, the they. What is that? We're not afraid of using the same word many places, many times in a content. No, in technical writing, we are free to do so. The only problem is that when you use these pronouns often, you get to realize that your audience might not be able to follow along, especially when this pronoun is maybe 5 words ahead of the original word that it was intended to be used for. So that is for pronouns. And the same goes with acronyms. On the first mention, give out the meaning. For instance, if you mention API, it is best you provide the full meaning of API, application programming interface. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and start using your API wherever you want it in the content, because by the time you do so, your reader or your audience already knows what an API is. But use these acronyms sparingly. Rule number 10, leverage illustrations. Like I said in the previous video, a picture says 1,000 words. When you use illustrations like diagrams, screenshots, images, you tend to make understanding a concept easy to your audience and readers. It helps them break down what they could perhaps read in 1,000 words. So please, when writing, try as much as possible to use these illustrations. They add beauty and breadth to your content. Rule number 11, minimize the use of pronouns. It, they, please minimize it. It confuses your readers. Some good practice is to make sure you don't use pronouns after 5 words of the subject you intend to talk about. For instance, let's take a look at this example.
Now, let's say we have something like this. Next.js is a React.js framework. Nuxt.js is a Vue.js framework. It is used for building front-end applications. Now, this is confusing. The it here is not clear. Is it referring to Nuxt.js or is it referring to Next.js?
Rule number 12, the final rule. Please don't overuse capital letters and bold. Don't try to use the bold for your text in so many places. Use it sparingly. The same goes for capital letters. It can confuse your readers and make your content boring. So please use it sparingly. Don't use them too much. Yes, and that is a wrap for the 12 rules of technical writing. Which of these rules do you find most helpful? Please let me know in the comment section. And if I'm missing out on any rule you know, please let me know in the comment section. And please do like and subscribe, and make sure you check out more of our technical writing and coding tutorial. And stay awesome. Bye for now.